Okay. So can you see the slide?
Yes, miss.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So t-test, there are two types of three types of t-test. So in your previous activity or topic, that is z-test, hypothesis testing for one sample population. So if you have the data nga for population standard deviation or population variance, then they use z-test. But if in a case that there is no population variance, they are only using sample variance, so they will use t-test. So similar formula, if you've seen that in your textbook, so they're just similar formula, but instead of population variance, they are using sample variance or sample standard deviation. And also, I will not discuss that since you're already familiarized with that. And then we have also paired t-test. Say, for example, the before and after, if there is difference between the outcome or the result, so they are going to test. For example, we will have to conduct a seminar or for changing their lifestyle. So before the seminar, what are their lifestyles, what are their their way of life, their perspective, their outlook. And then after an intervention or a seminar or another treatment between, then they will test again if there are changes. So you can use that one for paired t-test like before and after. So they use that one. But for t-test, for independent t-test, so they are using also t-test. But remember, t-test is only for two population or for two groups. For example, we will have to differentiate the gender, male and female. Is there a significant difference on their intelligence, on their academic performance, or same lang ba sila? So you will use independent t-test. So in your textbook, you have also read there, and there are also some example to that. So maybe just a slight introduction for the use of t-test. So remember, t-test is for two population groups or two groups to be compared. So whenever you will have your thesis in the future, so if you're comparing two groups, then you use t-test. Okay. And then, so there's a formula. Okay, I will just show you an example. This one. Okay. I'll stop share ko na basi matula. Ay, hindi makita. Can you see the example?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Okay, so a statistics course is taught to 15 students by the traditional procedure. So reminder, what I'm presenting to you is independent t-test. Okay, so iba ang paired t-test, lain man ang independent. So meaning they are separate groups. Okay, so what I'm presenting to you is independent t-test, which is commonly used in researches. So a statistics course is taught to 15 students by the traditional procedures. The second group of 12 students, so remember there are two groups. So N1 or sample size 1 is 15 and then sample size 2 is 12. Was given the same subject thought of technological aided methods. So at the end of the term, similar tests were given to each group. Okay, so for example, and then the first group made an average of 83 with a standard deviation of 5. So I assume nga you already know how to compute standard deviation. So sa aton previous nga lesson. While the second group made an average of 85 with a standard deviation of 4. So okay lang nga mag-compute ka sa imo data, like imo students ay imo nga data is only 15, 30. So pwede pa ang calculator. But if you have a damo na kaayo nga data, let's say 500, 200, so it's no longer efficient to use manual computation, but rather we need a software. So, but for the sake of demonstration, while the second group made an average of 85 with a standard deviation of 4. So sa isa ka group nga 15 students, kag ang sa 12 students, they have their own average score, they have their own standard deviation, and also the another group, may ara man sila average score, may ara man sila standard deviation of different standard deviation score. And now, we will test the hypothesis that the two methods have no significant difference. So let's see if they have the same performance. So if you've seen our hypothesis testing topic I've posted in our Moodle, so we have the 5 basic steps to hypothesis. So remember, this is two-tailed test because wala nag-signify nga greater than or less than. Instead, as long as bisan nubo pa na siya or taas, as long as dili sila similar or they are not equal, then two-tailed na siya dayon ang ginamin. Okay? So, for our null hypothesis, so HO, mu1 is equal to mu2. Okay? So, in other pwede man nimo i-present ang imong null hypothesis in a mathematical presentation, mu1 minus mu2 is equal to 0 because they are just equal. So equal to 0. And then your textual null hypothesis is that two methods have no significant difference. Okay. And then for your alternative, kitaon lang. For your alternative, so mu1 is not equal to mu2. So, amo to siya ang, kung nabasa na ninyo ang introduction to hypothesis testing. Ay, okay. May I ask, have you read already or studied the steps to hypothesis or introduction to hypothesis testing? Hello?
Wala pa, ma'am.
Alam mo, budlayan ka mo relate. Actually, ga-assume na ko nga natunan nyo na to. Kay once wala nyo to na studyhan, you will have a hard time catching up. But anyway, we'll just post this one in the Moodle. Anyway, this is recorded. So,
Giinlan lang namon, ma'am, ang ginsend mo sa,
group chat?
sa GC.
Wala ba ko ka-announce? I think naka-announce ko. May ara na sa Moodle.
Ang sa mini research.
Yeah. I mean the module 7. Module 7, Introduction to Hypothesis Testing and Z-test. May ara na kamo to gani activity, last to siyang activity. Kay gitingob ko na lang ang t-test, ang analysis of variance, kag ang person-R correlation sa inyo na lang emerge sa inyong mini research para isahan na lang. Kay we lack of time. But anyway, how about you, Kim? Have you watched or studied the hypothesis testing I've posted in Moodle? Ikapoy ni si Kim ba? Hello?
Disconnect niya siguro, ma'am.
How about you, Chris Mar?
Ang sa pa lang, miss, sa second video, sa kadua.
Okay. So sa one population, very good. So amo ni siya ang basic steps to hypothesis testing. And now let's proceed sa formula. If you've read your reading assignment, the formula is T is equals to X bar 1. That means it's the sample mean of the group 1, okay? Minus the sample mean weighted ay average lang na siya, arithmetic mean of the group 2 minus 0. Actually, ang 0 ni, amo ni siya ang ginamin diri ang difference bala kung may population ka nga gina-refer. So usually 0 na diri. So be familiarized to that base sa paglantaw nyo sa inyo textbook, ma-wonder ka mo ano na diri ang sa difference 0 mu1 minus mu2, that is population. So since wala man ta idea sa population, so gina-use na lang nila nga 0, okay? And then SP, that is pooled na siyang variance over multiplied to square root of 1 over sample size sa group 1, Okay? Plus, nag-chat. Ay, on duty si Kim. Okay, si last na lang man nga klase ta. So 1 plus 1 over N2. So ang pooled naton nga pooled variance or pooled standard deviation, ang formula is square root of n minus 1. So n1, so ay ano na siya, sample size ang group 1 multiplied to the sample variance of group 1 plus N2, that is the sample size of group 2 minus 1, and multiplied to the sample variance of group 2 over N1 plus N2 minus 2. This 2 is fixed na siya ha. So minus 2. And then, so using the formula, so substitute ta ang value. So our pooled variance is 15. So group 1, we have 15. Minus 1 times 25, since this is 25, to. Ang standard deviation is 5, di ba? So 5 squared. So that is 25. So remember ang variance kay ang standard deviation ha. And then plus sa 12 minus 1, so ang group 2 is 12 students minus 1 multiplied to ang standard deviation sa group 2 is 4. So squared, that is 16. So over 15 plus 12 minus 2. So that is your pooled variance. So after that, nakuha mo na ang SP. Substitute that to the formula that we have. So there is a taas, so this is our formula. I-read ko. So i-substitute mo ang 83, amo ni siya ang average score sa group 1 minus the average score sa group 2, 85 minus 0. Over sa pooled variance naton, pooled standard deviation or SP, that is 4.58. So multiplied to the square root of 1 over 15 plus 1 over 12. So just a little computation, you will arrive to negative 1.26 nga t value. So this t value, they call it as DIT computed. So kung may mga textbook ka mo nga makita nga may mga letter T, then subscript nga COMP or C, that is the computed according to your data. So now, the fourth step is critical region. So how would we do that? So remember this one, if as a review sa aton nga hypothesis testing lesson, reject HO, so that is default ha, reject HO if T computed absolute value. So kung negative to ang aton T value, so 1 minus 1.126, so absolute value is greater than T alpha over 2, and then your number of sample size or degrees of freedom na siya ang tawag DF. And then, so we have 25, di ba? 2, amo ni siya, 15, ang sample size ang duwa, 15 plus 12 minus 2. So, amo na siya, 27 minus 2, so 25. So, kitaon lang. Can you see this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So, reject HO. That is default ha. Remember that. Reject HO if ang imo nga T computed is greater than the T alpha over 2, 25. So, ang T alpha, usually ginatawag ni siya nga T tabulated, meaning according to the table, the tabular values. So we can base our decision making where T computed is 1.126 kay absolute value. And then our T alpha, so 0.05 divide 2 kay two-tailed man ta. So 0.025, and then our DF or degrees of freedom is 25. So tanawon nyo na siya sa table, ara siya sa atong textbook sa table F. So for example, aton nga so two-tailed kita. And so we have this one, 0.05 two-tailed, 0.025. Then ang 25 nga value nga DF or degrees of freedom, then we have 2.060. So can you see the value 0.060 ay 2.060?
Sa number 25, ma'am.
Oo, ang DF. So, i-straight nyo lang, DF ninyo ang yung degrees of freedom. Remember, mag-compute sang DF is N1 plus N2 minus 2. And then, kung ano ang inyo dayon nga alpha or level of significance. So, ang aton level of significance is 0.005. So, two-tailed. So, ang iyan nga value, ang intersection na siya, amo na siya ang tawag that is F or T tabular or T tabulated according sa imo table. So, am I clear?
Oh, miss.
Sige, very good. So, i-review nyo na lang na. So may ara na kadayon conclusion. So, amo ni siya ang aton nga rule. So, sa probability nyo nga subject, I believe ano naman kamo sina. So, reject HO kung taas ang T-computed. So, this is our value, 1.126 and 2.060. So, sino ang mas greater? Ang T-computed or ang T-tabular?
Tabular.
Very good.
Tabular.
So, T-tabular. So, since 1.26 is not greater than 0.26, so balik ta sa aton nga decision rule, nga reject ako no if T-computed is greater. So, since dili man siya greater, so ang aton conclusion is fail to reject the null hypothesis. So, this is standard ni siya kung mag-display ka mo sa inyong critical region. This is, amo ni siya ang aton nga way of presenting. But this one is default, reject HO. Amo na siya. And then, so atong decision is fail to reject HO. So reminder, if we are using tabular values, ang aton default is reject HO if your T-computed is greater than sa tabular, if you are using tabular. However, in software, nga dili na ta magtan-aw sa table with this one like this table, so makakonclude kita sa aton analysis using the level of significance. So usually most of the software aided nga statistical analysis, they are only presenting the p-value or the probability value. If you could remember in your Z distribution or standard normal distribution, we can also use the probability value in having a conclusion. So opposite siya ang iyang way, ang default. So reject HO if T computed ay if your p-value is less than level of significance. So for example, ang aton level of significance is 0.05. Okay? So if our computer or ang aton nga analysis maghatag siya sa 0.03 nga p-value, then reject HO kay dapat less than. So opposite siya, remember, if we are using the tabular, dapat taas ang computed kaysa sa tabular for you to reject HO. Opposite naman if we are using the probability value and the level of significance. Dapat less than ang imo p-value sa level of significance. So am I just clear? Clear lang ba ko?
Sige, miss. Miss.
Yes, very good. So let's continue. And then for your conclusion and then interpretation, kay fail to reject HO. In other words, fail ko na aton reject, fail na dili naton i-reject ang HO. So we will accept this HO. So for elementary definition, accept, but actually in reality dili siya accept na siya ang term, just fail to reject. But for you to better understand, let's just say accept HO. Okay, so iba to nun tani. In other words, two methods have no significant difference. So sa statistics course, sa traditional procedure, kag sa technological aided methods, wala difference. Okay, so that is our conclusion. After that, sa inyong mini research, you will just, for example, this one, the conclusion and interpretation, the two methods have no significant difference. This implies that whenever you use the traditional procedure or technology-aided method, students' performance has no statistical significant difference. So then isugpondayon ninyo ang inyong related literature, mabaka mga as supported by Chris Marr 2022. Indeed, it was not it depends upon the capacity of the students to understand, so something like that. So that is for t-test. Okay, so again, t-test is used to test the difference between two groups. Okay, so do you have any question? Anyway, the formula is there in your textbook. So any question? There's none. We'll proceed to analysis of variance. So if we have t-tests for two groups and then 3 or more groups, we can use the analysis of variance. So that's why it's really important to master the summation notation, because if you can see, stop share ko kay Basin. If you can see sa mga formulas, as long as ma-understand ninyo ang katong summation notation, even malipat ka mo sa mga formula, and then you come to a textbook nga mag-tell naman sa formula, but then you can understand. Even though nga iba-iba sila kung notation, but still na maka-guide gyapon kag dasig nyo lang ma-review. So remember, for two population groups, for two groups, we use again t-test. Okay, but for 3 or more groups to compare, we will use analysis of variance, or they call it Anova. For example, in cases like, may ara ba significant difference ang height or academic performance ng first year, second year, third year, fourth year? So they are more than 3 groups. So we can no longer use t-test, but instead we will use analysis of variance. So amo na siya ang paggamit sa analysis of variance. So sa inyong mga research sa future, if you are comparing or if you want to know if there's difference between 3 or more groups, you use analysis of variance. But it's not all the time, since sa inyong advanced statistics, you will also encounter non-parametric test. Kaya ang mga test nga ini, may mga assumption na sila. Di ba, may ara ta probability and non-probability nga sampling techniques. So ga-vary na dayon ng inyong statistical analysis. Klaro lang ko, or ano, i-question ka mo, don't hesitate to ask if you have some questions, okay? So, testing the hypothesis about the mean is not only possible in single or two groups. Generally, several sample groups coming from several populations taken into comparison may come in a common scenario. For the instance that several sample groups are compared, we can repetitively apply a t-test, but this will inflate the probability of so no need to show that. So I've already mentioned this one. So we have one way or single factor analysis of variance, meaning we're only comparing one variable to each other. So if mas complex na gid, we have two-way analysis of variance. But our focus now is only one way or single factor analysis of variance. Okay, like one variable. So dapat ang variable under study for each group must come from a population nga dapat normal. So normality. And then population variance are assumed equal. So the data are independent of each other. So in other words, ang akon nga reply sa item 1, wala ya epekto sa item 1 man sang isa ka respondent. So they are independent. And then amo ni siya magwansang, this is our table, mga sample. So I believe kabalo na ka mag-compute sang population means, sang mean, sample mean, sang group mean. So this is the formula. Also, it's there in your textbook. That is the total variations. So total sum of squares, then sum of squares between, and sum of squares within. So actually, sum of squares treatment, they use it also TR treatment, and then error, sum of squares error, or within groups. Okay, so I will show you some. So this is the computation. This is our standard table. So this is the sum of squares between groups, and then sum of squares within. And then the mean square. So this is the degrees of freedom. Kung pila ka bilog ang imo ang K, that is your treatment or groups. So di ba 3, dapat more than 3. So kung pila imo groups minus 1, that is the degrees of freedom between groups, and then ng K, that is your groups multiplied to your sample size minus 1. So that is your within groups. And then you compute for this one for mean square. Ang mean square is sum of squares between over your DF. Amra na siya. And then your mean square sa within groups over naman sa imong DF sa between groups, or sometimes they call it error. Sum of squares error, SSE. In some textbook they use SSW or within. So muna ilang mga terms. And then imo computed F, if we have the t-test or computed t sa aton nga t-test, in analysis of variance, they are using computed F. So ang F distribution naman ni ang ilang basis sa ilang analysis. So ang duwa ka variance, i-kuhaon lang ang ratio, then that becomes your computed F. And then your critical value, F value or F tabular, ano naman siya, kadto naman kamo sa inyong F table, and then inyong alpha specified, then DFE and DF treatment or DFE. So amo ni siya ang DFO, degrees of freedom between groups and within groups. So inyo naman na i-cross tab ang value dira, amo naman na siya inyong computed nga ay tabular F value. So for example, I'll show you some example. Okay. Can you see the example? Anova.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll proceed. So a researcher wishes to determine if the 3 brands processors have the same effectiveness in terms of the number of seconds to boot up when administered to 15 subjects randomly divided into 2-3 groups. So remember, ang ANOVA is 3 or more groups to compare. And then, so amo ni ang data. This is the group 1, group A, group B, group C. So amo nang ilang time of boot up. And then, so tanawon ta if may ara bala differences sa ilang mga processors. So let's see if may difference. And then, hypothesis testing similar to what we did. So step 1, state your mathematical presentation of your null hypothesis. So we have mu1 is equal to mu2 is equal to mu3. So kay tatlo sila ka group. So kung may 5 ka, so isugpon mo man na mu1, mu2, mu3 hasta sa 5. And then ang textual presentation of your null hypothesis are all means are equal or there is no significant difference on the means. Okay? And then sa aton alternative hypothesis, we have mu1 minus mu2 minus mu3 is not equal to 0, meaning they are not equal kay kung similar ni sila dapat ma-0 siya. So at least one mean is different from the rest regardless kung isa lang or duwa ang different gid. So basta may isa ka mean nga iba ang performance. Then aton nga level of significance, by default we have the 0.05 or 0.01 unless specified. Then this is our test statistics by computation. So obrahon nyo gini ang table, pangitaon nyo na ang sum of squares. actually ginahatag man i-compute nyo manually or ara sa inyong nga table or sa inyong na software. And then degrees of freedom taka di ba 3 ka groups. 3 minus 1 df. Muna siyang df. 3 minus 1 is equal to 2. So that becomes our degrees of freedom between groups. So and then ay naman 3 times sa n pila to gani kabilog. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 15. So 12, we have here 12. So this is the computed F, 18.86 divide 3, so 6.025. So how can we find this 3.89 nga F tabular? So sa aton nga table, naman to. So, diri naton makita sa aton table, DF, may ara na specified degrees of freedom numerator, that is your degrees of freedom between groups. Sa inyo ni nga table sa aton textbook, ara siya sa table H. And then ang degrees of freedom denominator, that is degrees of freedom within groups or error, degrees of freedom error in some textbooks. So, amo na siya. Then, pangitaon nyo dira. So, we have 0.05, diba? And then, our DF is 2 and 12. So, pangitaon nyo na diri, 2 to 12. So, ang value dira niya, amo na dayon ng inyong nga tabular values. So, in conclusion, so reject HO. Okay, this is our default critical region. Reject HO, again, reject. Similar lang siya if you observe. Reject HO if F computed is greater than F alpha or your level of significance DFE or DF within or DF between groups. So where F computed is 6.02 and then our F tabular is 3.89. So sino ang taas? Ang F computed or ang F tabular?
Computed.
Computed.
So F computed ang mas taas. Then since 6.02 is greater than 3.89, so by conclusion with this default, reject HO. Kay taas man ang F computed. So this is our basis or this is our critical region where we will base our decision. So reject HO. In other words, at least one mean is different from the rest. At least one of the processor has a different time of booting up. So amo na siya dayon ang inyo nga pag interpret. So if sample nag-use ka mo sang computer or software. So may ara na siya ginapangita, wala na ang iban, wala nagabutang sang sum of squares, mga mean squares. So ang ilan na lang da ginabutang is F value. So ang value to sa imo nga analysis of variance. And then P value, amo ni siya ang project na lang. Kung kisa sa mga software, ara na siya may word na siya nga sig. And then, ang remarks natin is reject HO. Okay, remember, if we don't need to get the F tabular, if dili na siya necessary, kung may ara na ta p-value. So remember, the principle, if p-value is less than your level of significance, that is your alpha, then we will reject HO. So remember, opposite sila. If you are using F computed, and then F tabular, dapat taas ang F computed for you to reject HO. If nagagamit naman ka sang p-value and level of significance, so dapat less than ang p-value sa imong level of significance for you to conclude reject HO. So I made it clear again. So in this case, since 0.01 is less than 0.05 nga alpha or level of significance, then our remarks is reject HO. In other words, there is significant difference. So, am I clear? So here I will read to you how you present your data in your mini research. Table 1 shows the analysis of variance on the boot up time among 3 brands ABC with a mean of 5.2, 7.8, and 4.0 respectively. So kung wala ka mo mean, okay lang na. The F value is 6.021 with the corresponding p-value of 0.05. So since the p-value is less than the 0.05 level of significance, this shows that statistically, there is at least one mean different from the rest. This implies that there is at least one brand effectively performing in terms to boot up time in comparison with other brands. And then, ngita na kamo dayon sa journal to support your claims. To support or to disagree or to contrast. So, it's okay. Basta may mga related literature ka mo. So, no question? Wala na kamo question? Can you see the person R correlation?
Oh, Miss.
Okay. Maragi ka po pod ko ano ba? Discuss ba? Okay, so for example, your objective naman is not to know if there is significant difference sa performance, wala kay labot kung magkaiba sila. Ang imo naman purpose is may correlation ba sila, may relationship. So dili lang ang tao may relationship, no, also ang data, are they related? For example, ang size ba sang tiil also may connection or may relationship ba siya sa intelligence ng tao? For example, kung gamay imo tiil, bright ba ka or dili ka bright? Something like that. So, amo na siya nga mga question, may correlated ba? For example, may relationship ba or may correlation ba ang imong resilience sa imong spirituality level? So, amo na nga mga question ang gina-cater sa person R correlation. So, sa ato textbook, ara man dira. So, for your introduction sa inyong kung paano na siya gamiton ang person R. So, any question kung paano gamiton or mag-proceed na ko sa example?
Proceed na, Miss.
Sige. Alright. Magkapoy ka mo tanan. So, let's go. Lapit last na ni siya. After that, mag-mini research orientation na dayon ta. Now, so ang question or the problem is the age and systolic pressure readings of 15 individuals were recorded as follows. So, person R, dili siya person nga statistical tool. It's tao nga respondent 1, respondent 2 as the 15. And then ang iya age is 32, ang iya nga SBP is 115 and so on and so forth until 165 sa age nga sa ka-15 nga person nga 75 years old. So, ang pamangkot is the age and systolic blood pressure may correlated ba or may relationship? And ano ang extent sang ila relationship? Okay, so this is the formula and your sample size. Summation of multiplied summation of xy, y1. In other words, i-multiplied nyo ni ang 32 times 115 plus 35 times 123 plus 36 multiplied to 125 plus until 75 multiplied to 165. So, amo na siya ang summation of xi, yi minus the summation of xi. So, i-total mo ni multiplied to summation of yi. This is naman total naman sang imo nga y which is SBP. So, multiplied mo dira over square root of and your sample size. So, we have 15. And summation of xi squared. So, ang xi, we have 32 squared plus 35 squared plus 36 squared plus 40 squared until plus 75 squared. So, inyo na isa-isahon. Minus sang total niya sang age sang tanan niya age quantity squared. So i-total danay before i-squared. Amo ni siya ang summation of xi quantity squared multiplied to sample size naman, and then summation of yi squared. In other words, 115 squared plus 123 squared plus 125 squared plus 100 squared plus until 165 plus 165 squared rather minus the total squared. Okay, so amo na siya mag-compute sa person R. So 45685, then ang aton nga R is 0.88. So ang table ta may ara na siya person correlation coefficient nga arbitrary scale. So kung strong ba na siya high. So I will just tell you orally na lang ka wala diri gali. So ang 1 nga value sang imong nga person R, that is perfect linear association, perfect relationship. No, dapat ma-perfect ang relationship. And then 0.8 to 1, that is very strong linear relationship. And then if we have 0.6 to 0.8, we have strong linear relationship or association. And then 0.4 to 0.6, we have moderate relationship. And then 0.2 to 4, we have the weak linear relationship. And then 0 to 0.2, that is very weak. And then if we have 0, then that is no linear relationship. So, wala na siya pag-present. So, in your data, as can be seen in table 1, the person R value is 0.88. This shows that age and SBP has a positively strong relationship to each other. Further, the increase on age kay positive man. Pag mag-increase ang isa, ang association niya ga-increase man ang isa ka variable, is likely to have an increase in SBPs. So consequently, the decrease in age is likely to have a low SBP. So, ang question naman dayon if not all relationship are significant. Okay, not all strong relationship are significant. So, bisan pa, sometimes may mga data nga weak ang ilang relationship but they are significant kung i-hypothesis testing naton ang ilang relationship. So, ang null hypothesis naman naton is ang raw ni siya nga Greek letter, or that is R, ang iban, R is equals to 0. Or in other words, there is no significant relationship between age and SBP or relationship between your variable 1 and variable 2. And then your null alternative hypothesis is your R or your rho is not equal to 0. So there is significant relationship between age and SBP. So ang ginagamit nila is T distribution. So with this formula. So T computed R squared of n minus 2, 1 minus R squared. That is your R squared. That is your computed nga person R correlation value. So using the formula, substituting the values, we can have this 6.63. So or approximately 6.63. So ang decision rule naman is reject HO if T computed is greater than same principle that we have in t-test. Okay, so where T computed is 6.63 and aton nga T computed ay T tabular rather is 2.16. So which is greater, 6.63 or T tabular? Ano aton nga decision? Is it reject HO or fail to reject HO?
Reject HO, ma'am.
Okay, so reject HO, it's because taas ang T computed. So now our conclusion is there is significant relationship between age and
PSP.
SPP. So muna siya ang sa person R correlation. So do you have any questions? If wala na, mag-proceed ta sa aton nga guidelines sa aton nga mini research. Pero mapuhay ko danay ha. Pwede sino mga intermission, Leonard, mag-intermission ka. Wala sila. Dahil lang ha, mainom ko danay.
Saot, Nard. Nard. Saot.
Nard sa ka. Ginakataro pa ko bala.
I-unmute, Nard. Masaot si Leonard, Miss.
Apat ng kadali.
Kanta na, Nard.
O, Nard, kanta nga, Nard. Broken hearted ko nga
Hindi
daan,
ko ma-
Nard. Ipalipaya ko, Nard.
Kasakit na ma'am akong
Balik tayo si mama na.
Saot lang, Nard. Saot.
Hindi kuya.
Sige ah. Pero may mga data na kamutanan. Ready na inyong survey?
Oo,
Oo.
ma'am.
Sir, may mga respondents na galing ma'am.
Very good ah. So, ready for analysis na lang. So, ang inyong software ha, kanang dapat naka-ready na siya daw. Naka-tell naman ko kung paano to mag-download.
Ang just ma'am, hindi ko makita sa ano.
Amo na
Hindi
siya ang itsura
ma-download.
niya, oh. Ano na siya man. Ay, pero send ko man, di ba, sa Moodle, ang itsura. Basta lain mo, Nard. I-open ko danay ang ano ha. I-stop share ko. I-open ko
Basta,
danay.
lang po ito, Miss. Para lang ito sa laptop, ya.
Oo, para lang sa laptop, wala sa phone. Nag-try ka mo sa phone
Ako
ha?
Tama na,
ganit. Pambal ko si Nard,
Ano?
wala software ang phone, Nard, ha?
Application na iya kung sa phone.
Para space S.
Uy, may SPSS sa phone? SPSS, pwede siya SPSS, pero crack na siya, inyo magamit, kay mahal kayo na ang license. Mga, ano guro, maglapot ka mo 100,000, wala pa gani ka purchase ang CPAC sina. Ariyo, i-share ko ha. JASP. Share screen. Can you see the must-have things in this course? JASP Statistical Software. So, download yun na
Oo,
siya.
na
Pero may
naman. Nakita ka gina, ma'am.
ha? Nakita nyo na?
Oo, ma'am. Kaso hindi na ma-download ko. Wala kami laptop.
Sa laptop gid siya. Actually kanang pag-try ko ni na download, may ano na siya, may guide na siya mo kung ano klase imong laptop, kanang 64-bit ba siya or 32. So dapat tanawon niyo kung ano ang inyong laptop nga installan kay mag-vary man na mo. Kay do may ginapindot na siya. Actually mas friendly siya i-install compare sa Star. Ang Star na iya ang ginagamit sa mga experimental sa agriculture, sa mga biology, Star na ila statistical tool for agricultural research. So mas mas complex, pero ang JASP pang social man gud siya researches, the alternative siya sang SPSS. Mas siya, mas dasig. So i-try nyo lang liwat download. Ikaw, Mar, naka-download na ka, Mar, sa JASP?
Ako, Miss.
Oo, naka-download ka na?
Wala pa, Miss. Why pa kami laptop, full man.
Sino yung groupmate?
Si Gracia.
Okay.
Gracia Bill.
Okay. Imo yan, Nard?
Okay na to, ma'am. Na-send ko sang lasi mo, ma'am.
Oh, okay na gid to siya. Actually, amo na to gani gingamit ko pag dry run. Pero wala ko gingamit ang tanan yung data, nagkuha lang ko 12 lang ata para for presentation, demonstration purposes. Pero okay na gid to siya. And actually, subong laman ko nakagamit sa JASP. So, amo nang medyo, ano naman siya, kana friendly. So, let's proceed now sa inyong mini research. Ready na kamo? So, I assume nga you've read it. Hilig ta mag-assume. Okay, so this is your mini research guideline. So this is the sequence or paper contents ninyo. May cover page, so ibutan nyo ang title of the study. Diba, maka-identify naman kamo sang dependent variable, independent variable. So for example, the Family Quality of Life Survey 2012, something like that. So butan nyo na title of your study. And then, the research siya balang nga style, then title, then inyong names, muna siya group mate. And then introduction, the background of the study, mangita lang kamo sang readings like nowadays ang family ang center is the smallest part of the society, but it also plays an important role in the society, the progress of the country, like that. So mga research, the background lang bala siya. So this paper talks about the family quality of life nang nagikandak ninyo sa sining mga place. So just a little writings lang or para ma-practice ninyo gamay, magamit ninyo ang inyong mga writing skills sa introduction. So just one page, so it's okay. Mariana. So the practice nyo na sa inyong research. After that, objectives. So sa inyong objectives, may ara man dara di ba ang akon objectives. So ang inyong diri ibutang is determine the demographic profile of the respondents in terms of age, gender, course. So dito na siya ninyo ibutang. Dili sa objectives. Dili ninyo ni ibutang ang to satisfy objective 1. Okay, diri lang to determine the demographic profile of the respondents in terms of age, gender, course, number of family members, and then to determine the respondents' family quality of life in each area. So that ninyo ibutang sa objectives. And then ang methodology, so sa 4, sa state na ninyo, sino inyo participants of the survey. For example, these are the students of Central Philippine Adventist College, 2012, 2000 ganyan. So inyo lang na i-discuss. So in three sentences, it's already acceptable. Basta ma-discuss ninyo ang participants. And then sampling technique. So ano inyo gin-employ, di ba may topic ta before nga sampling techniques like simple random sampling ba kamo, nag-systematic sampling ba, or convenience. So ang convenience, di ba atong kung gin-send nyo lang ang link, tapos kung sino lang ang available, amo lang to ang nag-respond. So depende sa inyong sampling technique, di ba sa inyong project, sa inyong last time sa inyong exercise, amo na inyong assignment. So the similar sa sampling technique. So kay gin-answeran naman ng participants of the survey, you don't need to answer the question nga who are the respondents. You just focus on how many respondents and how they are selected. Okay, so dara sa sampling technique. So in paragraph form, so dara ang sa sampling technique daw, research na siya. And then statistical treatment. So ang statistical treatment, pabalik ka to sa objectives mo, tanawon mo. To satisfy objective 1, frequency and percentage distribution will be employed. So dara naman na ninyo is ibutang sa statistical treatment. Okay? So am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then after that, so tanan ninyo nga objectives inyo na ibutang sa sampling treatment. So kung ano nyo gingamit, nag-mean ba kamo gamit, analysis of variance, t-test, or person correlation. And then also you can have some introduction or 3 sentences for that. For example, t-test. T-test is used to determine the difference between the two groups. So you can have a definition. So you can use, basta remember no plagiarism. I mean, cite your reference. Okay, proper citations get. But not really strict. Basta nakaano lang kamo nga according to Leonard 2022. So like that. So you just have to give credit to the owner or to the author of the definition. And then results and discussion. So pag results and discussion, dito nyo na i-present ang inyong mga amo ni mga chart. So for example, the demographic profile of the respondents in terms of age, gender. So ibutan nyo na diri sa inyo results and discussion. So daw ano na siya ninyo, daw hypothesis testing nga style dira na natanan sa results and discussion. And then references, may gigamit ka mo nga mga gikuan ka mga sources. So you just put it there. And then sa appendices, di ba nagamit ka mo software? So ang inyong mga complete nga mga calculations, ang complete nga table dito nyo na ibutang sa appendices. Also, don't forget to put the scores sa inyong classmates, sa inyong groupmate. So anyway, it's also here in this, wait, okay. Okay, this one, sa rubrics for scoring. Ideas and content. Actually, hindi limang siya kayo, strict akon guideline. I mean, ang scoring. Basta makita ko lang ang importante, ara-dara, then no problem with me. Basta ang hypothesis testing, manggod ang akong gina-focus kag ang inyong presentation. And then the paper is presented in such a way that the authors understand what you are trying to present. Kanang makita ko nga na-understand nyo man inyong gina-present. And then RRL, ang inyong related literature sa mga definition, kung makita ko man nga may mga journals man ka mga ginbasa, but not really very strict nga, dapat very sophisticated gid ang inyong journals, but as long as naka-practice lang kamo. And then effort and presentation style, so makita ko ang as whole nga pictures ang inyong paper. So 25 points na siya. So ang 20 points ihatag na ninyo sa inyo groups. For example, si Gracia tagaan niya score si Chrismar 20 kung nagtabang ba siya or nagbulig, or kung wala siya nagbulig tagaan na siya 10. So at least na kamo ang mag-determine sa participation score sa inyong groupmate. So tagaan ninyo score 1 to 20. And then ang 5 points, ako na bahala kay makita ko ang overall nga design or presentation or kanang sa inyong paper. So that would be 5 points. So ang 20 points, again, halin na siya sa inyo. So kamo mahatag score sa inyo nga groupmate. So dito na siya ninyo ibutang sa appendices. For example, Chrismar, tagaan ni Gracia sang 20 points. Si Gracia gitagaan ni Chrismar sang 20 points. So you have to specify that one in appendices. And then this one is use 12 font size, 2-line spacing, and Times New Roman. So ang basic or ang usually ang ginagamit sa research is Times New Roman. So let's stick to that na lang. And cover page, mas hambal ko na ang inyong title and then groupmates. And then don't forget to put the page number and also participation score in the appendices, and you can use JESP. Kung expert ka mo sa Excel, no problem. Basta makita ko lang to ang ginapangita ko sa presentation. And then manual computation. Kung feel na feel nyo mag-manual, then proceed. Wala problema. Ang due date natin is as long as wala pa man gid ang registrar. Pero pwede is second week of August. Para maka-post man ko sa inyo dayon score or grade for this inter-semester. And then, so I will proceed na sa each objective para mas ma-understand nyo. Okay, so this one, frequency and percentage distribution table. So, ari ang gender, so by gender, so male and female, usually ang pag-present is horizontal ang table. Wala siya may naka-vertical kakson yun na sa table. And then percentage 53. So this is the tabular presentation. And then you will do, or this is the graphical. So kung gusto nyo i-transform pagid siya sa Excel, then much better kay para mas, kumbaga mas, kung satisfied ka mo pagid nga panamion nyo, no problem. And then textual. So remember, you can use graphical, textual, tabular, or textual. Kay opdanay gina sila sa mga researches. And then, for example, table 1 is the frequency and percentage distribution of the participants when grouped according to gender. For male, there are 8 respondents, which comprises 53.3% of the total respondents, or 53.3% of the total 15 respondents, and 4 respondents for females, which comprises 26.7%. So amo lang na basic nga textual presentation. And then for objective 2, to determine the respondent's family quality of life level in each area. So I will show you the example. Sorry siya. Amo ni siya ang ginhatag ni Chris, ni Leonard kag ni Gracia. So thank you so much for that. Wait lang ha. Okay, share. Okay. So can you see their data? Guys.
Oh, miss.
Okay, very good. Instagram ko ha. Okay. So, for example, sa ilang nga data, so per ano to gani ang objective 2 naton is to determine the respondent's family quality of life in each area sa family interaction. Nakita nyo pa ang Excel nga may colored or nag-change siya?
May colored, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So for example, ginkoloran ko kay para ma-identify ko nga ang blue, amo ni siya ang family interaction, ang pink sa parenting, ang sa green ang emotional well-being, ang blue is the physical or material well-being. So ang family interaction ginkuhaan ko siya mean. 'Di ba per area man to sa family interaction. So equals lang na siya, equals sa inyo Excel, i-edit nyo na, or obra i-analyze nyo, equals, then average. Ang average, double click, then kadto ka mo to dayon sa may areas, kaning double, ang blue, nga items, and then enter. So, ang magwa sina, then scroll down nyo dayon ang kaning dark. So, I believe you have the basic Excel skills. So, scroll down nyo na kaning dark, di ba? May white ni nga cross. Ang dark na is i-follow niya na ang formula nimo. So, same na dayon, then scroll down mo, then ma-compute na siya own. So, same man sa parenting, average equals average, then i-click niyo ang item for that areas. Sa parenting, ang item 7 hasta sa 12. So, i-scroll na, ano na ninyo, i-shade, then enter, press enter, then scroll down ang dark. So same, amo na siya dayon. So amo na siya mag-data cleaning. Data cleaning pa lang na siya kaya ang original data amo na siya. So kay gin-clean ko na, so gusto ko nga i-baylo ko na siya sa medyo wait ha. Wait. So gin data cleaning. Okay. Can you see the data? Nga wala na color.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, ang ginhimo ko, kay I thought, ang JASP, gagaano siya, kay ang sa Excel, ay ang sa SPSS, ga-value na mo, for example, sa gender, gin-recode ko pa siya like ang male is 1, ang female is 2. So, sa inyong data, you don't need to change sa inyong category like gender, hindi nyo na i-recode. So, I just realized that. So, pero para sa akon, kay ginaubra ko naman, so, gin 1 and 2, 1, 2 ko lang. Pero sa inyo na nga data, kung arrange na lang man siya, just at ease na lang siya. And then, male, female, pero dapat consistent ang inyong pagbutang. Pero kay nag-choose lang man sila, di ba, option. So, male, female, so same lang na. So, you don't need to recode. And then, ang year level, so, retain your category, bisan textual na siya, ang JASP, i-identify yan na gyapon as nominal, meaning nakakategory siya. So, you don't need to recode. But in my case, I recoded it for the sake nga matry ko lang kung mabaton siya sang number. So, nagbaton siya number, gin-try niya man gyapon i-analyze, pero ang groupings niya 1 to 1 to. So, no need na ninyo i-record. Sa course naman, kay there are times, ang like sa ilan ni Gracia, nga data, ang nagbutang is ang students. Dili nga sila nagbutang sang choices. So, dili siya similar, like, din to gani ang mga code. Okay. So may iban may nag-type lang niya nga BS Ed Math, may ara man nga Math, may ara man BS Ed Bio, may BSCE, may ara man naghambal nga BS Civil Engineering. So i-treat na niya sa JSP nga different unless similar gid sila sa name. So amo na guro ang inyong data cleaning. Kung if ever nga dili ang respondent ang nag-specify. Pero kung inyong survey, kamo yung naghatag option, tapos nag-check lang sila, then so constant similar na. So just be sure nga naka-consistent ang patterns ng inyong mga variables sa inyong courses. So amo na siya inyo work dira sa data cleaning nga part. And then sa year level, so kung choice ano na 1 2 3, so wala man problema, wala ga-vary, so be it, wala na siya ano. And then gin-copy ko ang katong sa family interaction ang mean, so sa kada respondent, so butang ko na siya ari na ang medyo ready data or analysis ready nga data. So for example sa future may research kamo and then mag-ask sa inyong statistician, just give me the analysis ready data. So meaning naka-recode na siya, naka-clean up na ang mga data. Okay? So sometimes ang mga you can also use katong may mga per items pa. So no problem with that as long as kanang clean na inyong data like sa SPSS, kanang recode na ang ila ginapangita like naka 1212 tapos butangan nyo lang dahil legend sa dalom, so ang statistician na bahala. But sa GASP, bisan word male female, so it's okay. Ang GASP maka-recognize siya sa category sa nominal. So am I clear? Clear lang ba? Hello? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Sige. Padayon ta, lapit na lang gid. Dako na sang aton oras nga na-consume, but let's go on. Then sa family interaction, so sa objective number 2, per areas sa quality of life. Family interaction, parenting, emotional well-being, i-compute nyo na siya. So example this one. Amo ni siya ang aton gamiton nga arbitrary scale interpretation. So amo ni family interaction, ang inyong computation dira, for example 2.38. Then ang inyong interpretation diri nyo tanawon sa arbitrary scale. So 2.38, so diri siya nga area, so low. Amo na yung interpretation is low. Then ang parenting naman, butangin naman da ang mean and then interpretation. Okay? So this is the example of textual presentation. So nakita nyo man sa inyong guidelines. And then, to determine the respondent's general quality of life level when grouped according to gender. So ang overall naman nga quality of life, tapos ano naman siya, get separate per gender. So for example, same naman gyapon aton interpretation. So gender, male and female, example 2. So diri siya nga category, so very low. And then sa female, average. So same lang nga example sa pag-interpret textual. So wala kada conclusion, wala kada hypothesis because you're only descriptively presenting the table. And then, ang 4, ari na, ang medyo mahirap-hirap. So to determine if there is significant difference on the family quality of life when grouped according to gender. So you can choose as a group ano inyo gusto i-analyze. Ang gender, so diba ang gender duwa lang man ka group, so that is you can use t-test. So I have specified here statistical treatment t-test. And then or kung gusto nyo analysis of variance, diri ka mo sa letter B. Number of family members, statistical group. Kung kisagi na ano na lang, basta mag more than 3, di ba iban ga varied naman siya, like isa lang kabilog tapos 5 sila. So you can group like ng 3 members in the family, amo na isa na ka group. And then 3 to 5 members in the family, isa naman na ka group. So para may ano siya ba, may category siya, may mga interval. So you can use that in your data cleaning. Kaya para hindi na siya bala kayo scattered ang number Nga sa 15 gali sila kabilag tapos isa lang to katawo, isa lang to ka family. So what if iano mo lang na siya na belong na lang na siya sa category nga 8 members and above in the family. So pwede na siya din nga category. So you can use that one in your you can do that in your data cleaning. So I will show you an example sa akong gibuhat for that. For example, this one, number of family members. So 3 members, isa ka group, yung data cleaning ko siya. Then 4 to 6 members, mayroon man 7 and above. Then 4 to 6 members. So depende na sa inyo gusto nga. Basta mag 3 or more siya nga group. And then na to siya. Okay. So after that, so you choose one lang ha sa 4. Either you gender ba ang imo nga i-test nga significant difference or number of family members. So you choose sa inyo nga group. Isa lang kung gusto nyo duwa, go on. Pero I given you the option nga choose either A or B. And then you do or follow the steps. For example, you specify the null and alternative hypothesis. Because our focus is dili pa man, actually wala na siya sa research sa inyo gid nga major nga research, but for the sake nga makita ko lang ang steps to hypothesis testing kaya mo man akong gi-target. So i-state ninyo ang null and alternative hypothesis and also your alpha, your test statistic. Usually kayo nag-software naman kamo gamit. So inyo ibutang na lang is variable, gender, and family quality of life. Then ang t-test value, ginahatag mo na siya sa GSP, isulat nyo lang dira. Then ang p-value, and then your interpretation, is that not significant or significant? So remember the principle sa F computed, T computed, kag ang p-value, kag ang level of significance. And then critical region, just follow sa kung percent kagina, and then reject HO, if T computed is greater than T tab. So kay wala naman tab, tabular, you can use critical region as reject HO if P value is less than or equal to level of significance. So amo lang na inyo pag-present sa critical region. Okay? So am I clear?
Promise.
Sige. So, decision, so same principle, and then conclusion. So, amo lang na textual presentation. Table 4 displays the difference analysis. So, same na siya sa Anova. Just use the 5 basic steps to hypothesis testing. And then, objective 5. Amo na ni siya. To determine if there is significant relationship between the two variables. So, you can choose. So, family interaction, ang isa ka variable, kag you can choose kung sino i-partner mo kay family interaction, si parenting ba, si emotional well-being ba, or si physical or material well-being. So, fix ni si family interaction. So, i-compare nyo ang family interaction ba, may relationship na siya sa emotional well-being sa tao. So, amo man na ang inyong kung per me balaga interact ang family members, ang ila emotional well-beings, they are very happy, they are satisfied. So, may ara ba sila na correlation, may ara ba sila relationship? So, same process, amo man gyapon R value, P value, and then just do the interpretation. So, are example siya i-dry run ko sa inyo sa JSP. So, descriptive lang ta magkuha ta descriptive, i-press nyo lang ang descriptive, may makita ay sa frequency. What if ano ko na lang i-demo ko na lang sa inyo ang JASP para makita nyo. Sige lang, kalapit na ta mag face to face base sa advanced statistics nyo. Akit kita ay man tagyapon.
Natuod, ma'am. Lapit na lang mag face-to-face.
Oo. Lapit na
Ay,
lang.
sana all. Sige. Pero need pa na magpa-vaccine, ma'am.
Dili pa gani ko magpa-vaccine. Ano na guro, mga
Okay.
protocols? Arya, i-present ko ha ang JSP. Can you see the software?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Okay, so amo ni siya ang itsura niya oh. Kanaan kanami sa JSP kay for example islan ko diri oh, i-direct niya kabalik sa imo original. Ay, remember gali. Before pag after nyo data cleaning, ang inyo nga file dapat i-save as nyo siya as CSV file. Di ba may ara nga file nga Excel workbook, may ara dira i-PDF mo ba siya, i-Word, or something like that nga option. Ay, dahil lang lobat na mo. So sa JSP, dapat i-save nyo inyo data sa CSV file. Okay, so I'll make it clear ha. CSV, comma delimited. Same sila sa star. So lower data lang ilang data file. So CSV, tandaan nyo gid ha, CSV. So for example, i-descriptive ko siya, frequency. Taguon ko ni biyang aton tsura. Okay. So you just choose frequency. Then contingency table. Pwede rows and columns. Ay wait descriptive ko be. Gender. So ari na dayon niya makita. Isulod nyo lang siya dito sa variables. And then ang descriptive may arrow siya. Pwede nyo siya dayon makopy. Meron daw edit title, copy citation. So kung may results na i-copy nyo lang tapos i-paste nyo lang siya sa Word. So frequency, let's see this one. Variables, gender. So ari ang binomial test niya gender level 1. Copy ko siya ha. So actually pwede lang na sa ninyo nga nga as I've said, male female. Kaya actually pwede man na ninyo gyapon ma-edit sa Word ang 1 di ba gi-recode ko. Islan ko lang ang 1 gi male gi female ko lang siya.
Islan naman, ma'am.
Ha? No need na ang inyong
Islan ang
data.
naman atong
Ha?
sa gender bala, ma'am.
No need na.
No
Kay
need
ang
na nga
sa
i-change.
no need na nga i-numerical nyo ang value. Kay kanami sa JASP gali siya kay bisan word na siya na mag-determine sang nga nominal na siya. So no need to recode. I think ang inyo i-recode is ang course. Kay ang gipasulat ninyo di ba ang students. So ang word nila
Oo,
iba-iba. Pero same sila point. For example, si math, nagdiretso lang siya BS Ed math to iya ginamin. Pero iya ginasulat kanang BS Ed math. So separate na siya nga category dayon, i-identify na siya sang software nga separate na siya kay di man sila same word. Unlike sa gender nga same gid sila ya format. So amo tuguro ang inyo nga i-recode or inyo i-data cleaning.
Sige, ma'am. Thank you.
Sige. Tapos, sa t-test, makita nyo man diri, makita nyo lang sa taas, t-test. Ang classical, may ara na siya sa inyong sa probability pagid, may classical kag Bayesian, amo ni siya ang katong may conditional bala prior information. So, ang aton gamiton lang gid is classical. Okay? So, remember this, independent and paired t-test. So, we are using the independent t-test. So, iput naton ang variables, ang ang total quality of ibutan nyo siya sa variables and grouping variable amo ni siya gender. So by gender be ang grouping. After that, sa kilid ni may arrow, pwede nyo na siya mapadako. So may ari na siya dayon diri copy. Hindi ko makita ka may arrow. Copy and then copy paste nyo lang siya dayon dito sa inyong Word. So okay na may Anova man diri. And then, ang regression, ang correlation, ara siya sa may regression nga tab. So, pang sulod nyo na, may sample man ko nga gin-show sa inyo sa guidelines. So, I believe you can follow through that guidelines. So, do you have any questions? So far, okay naman aton nga mini research guidelines. Do you have any questions sa aton guidelines? Like this,
Ma'am?
sa JSP, sa FPDT, sa gender. Ara lang.
May survey bala namon mamaw.
Yes, Nard. Naka-mute ka, Nard.
Ang sa may survey bala namon mamaw kay ang amon mga respondents. Ang amon nga respondents ma'am naka-specify lang gid sa mga second year English majors. Dason ma'am pag-share ko sang link bala mamaw may nag-answer ma'am nga ano nga mga general science. Di ma'am sa makaano man siya ma'am sa amon nga statistics ma'am to pareho sa siling mo to bala ma'am nga sa may data cleaning to bala mamaw ma-data cleaning na sa ma'am kaya nga amon ma'am nga respondents sa pat English major lagi kaso kay may nag-answer to nga general science ang major.
Okay.
Kaging pasahan mo guro link mong.
Hindi ginbutang ko to bago ko nagpasa ang link nag-message ko to nga English major lang ang answer. Pero may nag-answer gid nga Gen Z si Graciavel nag-answer man ato tong record mo.
Gintry ko lang
nakita
to nga
ko.
kung mabato ng respondents.
It's okay. Ang
Pwede siguro,
i-change
ma'am,
nyo na lang.
Para ang title, ma'am, ang respondents.
Ano nyo na lang, ang sa title is Family Quality of Life Survey. Amo na lang na siyang general nga title. Then, dito nyo na lang i-change sa sampling technique. For example, the respondents of this study are the students of Central Philippine Adventist College 2009-2010 in the courses, and then convenience sampling was utilized. In other words, anyone who received the link and answered it are the respondents of the study. Right? Dili man ta strict gid sa aton sampling So it's okay. And then also,
Kaso ma'am, kaya ang ginpass ko sa mas module 5 to bala or module 4 atong to mahimo tatlo ka paragraph ma'am.
It's okay. Ang ako lang man to may kabalo lang kamo mag-obra sa sampling technique.
So okay, hindi na ma'am si link kay ang ginanswer to na kon ma'am English major gid ma'am mo kay meetingan namon ni Manang Kim English major. So pwede lang gali ma'am nga sa may respondents namon kung sino na lang galing maka-receive sang link makasulod na lang sa amon man nga respondents.
Okay. So i-change nyo lang sa inyong nga mini research nga sampling technique. Ang ako naman to purpose sa aton nga exercise sa sampling technique basta makita ko lang nga kabalo kamo sa inyong steps sa what comprises the sampling technique or sampling procedure. So it's okay. Ang ako lang to i-check ang amo lang man to nga area and also sa mini research if there are some adjustment there's no problem with that as well. So you can adjust.
Okay ma'am, thank you.
And also sa mga like BS Ed Math, may Gen Sci, then that would be a different category, a different group. So you can just no problem with that.
Okay ma'am.
Okay. And then amuran siya mga steps o analysis of finding the t-test tab. So t-test ara sa taas, independent sample t-test, then copy. Mo na may arrow na dito mo. So i-copy nyo lang ang results. Then this one, t-test. So, di ba may ara to hypothesis testing sa analysis and results and discussion nga area. So, ang inyo nga i-present this one nakita nyo, may t-test, may t-value 0.0576. And then ang iyang p-value. So, this is ang p-value, then 0.579. Then interpretation. So, ang interpretation, di ba, ang principle if ang imo p-value is less than your level of significance alpha, then reject HO or significant. So dito na siya ninyo. Bisan wala na kamo computation, basta makita ko lang na diri sa table like this R value siya. This one, p-value just like kagina 0.5, then p-value nga pila to yung value, then interpretation not significant. So same steps to hypothesis testing. So pero ang result ninyo halin siya sa JASP. Are makita man na ninyo. So amo lang na itaga na kamo table and then this data dito nyo lang ibutang sa appendices. So same sa analysis of variance, o makita ninyo ang sum of squares, ang mean square. So ang inyong i-present dito sa table sa results and discussion is only your F value and then your P value and then your interpretation. Is that significant or not significant? Sa person correlation, ara man dira. So isulod nyo ang family interaction diri sa variable o nga tab. Isulod nyo dira ang family interaction kag ano inyo nga chosen nga area. Like parenting ba, emotional well-being. So dapat duwa lang na ang ginatest sa correlation ha. Bivariate. So duwa lang aton i-test. So then ang presentation, same lang siya gyapon. Ari ang iya nga parenting kag ang ari R, person R. So 0. Ang p-value, so ari ang value niya. 0.548. So, any questions? Okay na ka mo? Sige, so at deadline ta, ano na lang mga August. Mga first sem Kung hindi pa man, ay hindi gali, dapat ay 29, so 1 week. Sige, ano na lang, mga July, ay August naman dito.
August lang, ma?
Lano kadasing mong kayo, oy. August 13 kay para maka-check na ko sa inyo paper. Ay pwede man ay bisan 17 na lang, okay na ko na kay mag-prepare pa man ko sa inyo sa data. So basta ang 17 nakapasa na kamo sa inyong mini research. Actually, I would like to congratulate you, makita ko ang inyong sa Moodle nga nagapasa kamo on time and that's good. May sorry sa akong mga kakulangan, kaya na busy kayo ko. Busy ko sa move on. So anyway, wala na
exams.
Ha?
Wala ta mga exams.
Wala na din ta mag-exam kay do ka budlay man actually makita ko naman inyo performance sa inyong mga module outputs, I mean sa inyong topic exercise and especially sa mini research. So I think that's okay na. And I know nga naka-learn man kamo guro sa inyo ginaobra. Kay kung wala ti ma-exam ta
Yes, ma'am.
Pero sige, kaya nyo na I believe nga mga bright man ka mo. Bisan wala pa ta exam. So, thank you so much for attending. So, naka-spend ta, 1 hour, 2 hours. Pero okay na ta. So, sure na, wala na kamo question before we end.
Ay na miss Mga nakaminasang record miss nga
Oo.
isang record.
Okay. I-upload ko lang may ang link later sa
Sige.
Sige. So thank you so much. God bless you. So before we end this meeting, may I request Leonard to pray?
Okay, ma'am.